Hey yo, hey. We having a late night conversation, y'all. I'm gonna wait till some more people get in the room. Hello. We gonna have a late night conversation about sex. Hello. So tonight's conversation is about sex, as you can see from the topic. I have candid conversations about life and different things. This time we're going to talk about what our parents did not tell us about sex, the situations that are going on because of confusion between men and women about what sex really is and what it means to one person may not be to the same to the next. So we can just go get into it in a minute. I'm going to wait for a few more people to come in and then I'm going to get started. How's your day going? Well, now your night. That's what's up. Hello. Okay. Hello. Okay, we're going to get started. So, tonight I wanted to have a candid conversation about sex. And it's something that is really taboo in our culture, like to have these conversations, parent-child conversations. We usually have as adults with our friends. Kids have it with their friends. But having that conversation to know what it involves, what outcomes could happen from it and all of those different things, even down to understanding how men and women differ in that department. Nowadays there are some exceptions due to all of I feel like the world is over sexualized now. So due to that, people are seeing things a little bit differently. Women are a little bit more thottish, twerking a lot and doing a lot more, showing a lot more than they was doing years ago. But like having these conversations is really important because a lot of us have experienced as adult different situations. If you are a single mother, or if you're a dad that, you know, has baby mamas, or whatever it is, you know, everybody's experienced different situations that have stemmed from having sex with someone. And it might have been a good outcome. It may not have been a good outcome. You have some people that, you know, they had sex for the first time and it was a great experience. They married that person. That's their first love, and that's the end of that. You have some people who, you know, did the do, and that was their first time, and then you know, the girl was all in love. The guy was like, to the next. And even now, there are women still wondering why guys move this way. And now women are moving this way. Like, truth be told, there are a lot of women moving in these streets like, okay, you know, next. But I feel like they have been conditioned to do that, considering what they have experienced. So I'm just gonna go back a little bit for those of you all that are joining. Hello. So what is happening, and I've had conversations with different people, including educators and people that work in the school system, and they're noticing that kids are having these conversations, and their conversations sound like adult conversations. A lot of the information that they've been given or have been talking about is not necessarily accurate. They're going based off of videos, based off of, you know, media, social media, and all of these different things, but their conversations sound like adult conversations. So we know what we've experienced. We know that all of us, and especially those who grew up in church and in Christian households, most Christian households do not have these conversations at all. They just tell you not to do it. And to me, it is like sending your child into the world, like a big bad wolf situation, and not giving them the tools necessary in order to navigate what's on the other side of that, or what they're going to be experiencing. You kind of allow them to retain the information from their friends instead of getting the correct information from you. And I know that a lot of parents have a challenge with that, because some will say, oh, I don't want them going out there and doing it. Others will say, you know, I'm not about to have that type of a conversation. You have some that they're just like, no, my baby is still a baby. I don't want to, you know, but we all know that what we was doing at certain ages. So what you think they gonna do? So having this conversation is very necessary. I know that a lot of people don't like to have it within our community. There's a young lady who actually talks to girls about this type of stuff. Dr. Harita McDowell, she has these conversations in the public school setting. She actually has an organization for this. You can check out her Instagram. But she does talk about this. But in general, this is not a widely done thing. What she's doing, shout out to her for that. But it's necessary because essentially girls and women have to endure the brunt of that decision. And let's just go to the differences between men and women when it comes to sex, period. Overall, women are attached to their emotions, most women. And because they are emotional creatures, they are meant to be on the receiving end, not the giving end, it makes them retain, more, right? Women naturally are emotional, and when there's sex involved, it makes it so much more heightened, the emotions. For men are on the giving end of the spectrum, and so they don't have it, and I really believe it goes to the anatomy too. Hello. They don't have the emotional aspect that most women have. They're usually not attached to their emotions, so they're going based off of their need in that moment, which allows them to be able to stick and move more easily than a woman, because most women get attached. So knowing those differences makes a lot of situations a little bit more easier when you understand that aspect of it. But because a lot of times women and men don't understand those general differences, there becomes a disconnect, there becomes a bumping of the heads and all of these different things, and there's a lot of confusion and issues surrounding it. So now let's go to the basics. When women decide to have sex with a man, a lot of times women make up in their minds what is going to be before they even get to that point. They've already made up in their mind, this is, going to go this way. They have already created this whole scenario, and that's what men don't understand. I have had a lot of conversations with women that have created whole marriages with kids and all of this whole life planning stuff before the first date even happened, before sex even happened. And I've told them to stop doing that. Like, that is always my advice. Stop doing that, because now you're creating something that's not even there. Instead of finding out what it really is, now you have this in your head of what it's going to be, and that may not be the case. So you have to go in understanding, what page this person is on. But you can't do that if you are already focused on what you want. And that's where it gets confusing, because men don't understand that a lot of times women come in with their own intentions and their own thoughts and try to turn it into what they want it to be, instead of looking at what the man is really saying it is. So that's one of the complications that comes out of that. But now they actually have sex together, and then a man is like, okay, I enjoyed it, so I'll be back. Or he's like, that was whack. Next. And sometimes they next anyway and then come back, because they have the freedom to do that. A lot of men have the freedom to do that, and there's no emotional attachment, because they're just doing it to suit their need, not because they really want to connect. Now, you do have men, and I'm not going to say all men are the same, because they're not. You do have men who want to connect, and they wind up getting attached because they want that connection. That's a different type of a man. But for the most part, men are not emotional when it comes to that aspect. They're only doing it for that need to be met. So now he's ready to move on and do, go on to the next person, and maybe he'll come back. But now he's not talking to that woman. Now he's like, well, I got things to do. I'm busy. Whatever the case may be. She's getting ghosted at this point. So now in her mind, she's like, well, where did we go wrong at? Because she had in her mind all of these things that was going to happen. And instead of him saying, because sometimes guys do know that women want more, because women will say that. They will tell a man, oh, I'm ready to get married. I'm ready to have babies. I'm ready to do this. And instead of that man stopping that situation and being like, you know what, I ain't on that. Like, I ain't trying to do that. He'll continue because he likes sleeping with her. And then that's when the drama unfolds. Instead of letting her go about her business, and finding somebody that's on that same page to do what he's doing, he'll find somebody else that's doing the same thing, or he'll continue to mess around with this girl and be like, okay, well, why are you so in your feelings? And I already told you what it is, but you want to be in your feelings. It's because she already, she already made up in her mind what the scenario was going to be. She told you what she wanted, but you didn't stop to be like, okay, this could go left real quick if I don't stop this situation, you know, because she on a whole nother wavelength that I ain't even on. Like, she trying to have kids tomorrow, and I'm just trying to, you know, you already know. So, if we understood that those differences actually exist, it will help. But the reason why there becomes that clash is because of those differences in itself. And nobody's having that conversation to say, hey, we actually think differently about this. So because I think this way, you think this way, we ain't ready. Or we should not be doing this. Or, you know, I need to move around. But then it becomes a complicated situation. Now, why? Because a lot of these situations lead to unplanned pregnancies. Now, out of something that was just good for the moment, it became something that you got to deal with for the rest of your life. So now what ends up happening is, because she already had in mind what she wanted, and she already probably told him, now she's pregnant and she's expecting his mind to switch. A lot of women do this. They think because there's a baby involved, something is going to change. It's going to make that man more sensitive or more, I don't know, want her even more because she's having his child. And that's not the case. A lot of times, men don't have that same connection. I'm just going to say that, because they're not the ones whose bodies go through the changes of the conception and the belly pains that come along with it, the, you know, growing of the belly and other body parts. You all, as men, they don't, you know, go through those types of changes. Women go through that, and they see the growth of the baby, and they feel the growth, and then they feel the kicking, and then women have a much more different experience with that part. And that's another reason why they start to want more. If they didn't want more before, I'll say this, they will probably want more once there's a baby involved. And so it becomes a whole experience. Well, men don't feel that experience. They ain't feeling a kick, you know, a stretch, or their body's going through all of these different changes, the feet, the ankles swollen. They ain't going through that. So they're not going to have the same feeling or experience, because they're not going through that. And so if they're already not connected with that woman, they're not going to overnight just gain that connection because there's a baby involved. Now, some men will, and I'm not saying all men feel this way, but most. But then there are some men that will actually ask for more or want more because he already wants a family. Or he wants to do the right thing. Now, in that situation, I have my own opinion about that. And I don't necessarily think it's a good thing to be saying I want to do the right thing, because it leads to other things. As in, he may regret his decision later on down the line. Things may not work out because it was based on there was a child involved and I just wanted to do the right thing. All of that type of stuff. So I don't necessarily believe that should be a thing, unless it's a situation where he already felt like this was the person he wanted to be with. Other than that, that breeds problems on its own. But as far as the sex aspect, men and women have different views generally about that. And even when women say, that's all you think about, because that's actually something that men, and I'm not going to say they think about it all the time, it just seems like that, but it's something that they want. And women have, and this is the other part, society has taught women how to abstain. Women have been abstaining since they was girls. They've been told to abstain, abstain, abstain. Wait till you get married until you have sex, abstain. So they have abstained, and I find that married men, because I have some friends that are married men that have complained about women withholding, and I have to tell them, like, you have to understand that for women it's not necessarily a need to do it, because we've been conditioned to abstain from having sex, right? We have been conditioned to not do it. So if you've been taught all your life that you wait and you wait and you wait, by the time you become an adult, you can pick and choose when you decide to wait, which is easier. Well, as men have not been conditioned to wait. Most men are encouraged to actually play the field. And this is where a problem comes in, even in relationships and even in marriage, because if men have been conditioned to play the field and women are told to abstain from sex, how does that work in a relationship, especially if the conversation has not been had on how you all are supposed to navigate that? But a woman that's told to abstain and a man that's told to play the field, they get together, they get married. The woman starts to abstain when things are not going right. And that's the other part men don't understand. Because a woman's emotions are tied to it, a woman will abstain when it's not going right. When there are challenges, she will abstain. Men don't have that problem like women have that problem. Men are more like, well, I'm married, we together, well, why not? Let's keep going. And they don't think about, okay, well, this, you feel this type of way, and we had this issue, so I know that you probably don't want to do it because of this issue. A man is not thinking about none of that. He's just like, on go. You the only person that I'm with, and if you the only person that I'm with, and I've been told that I have to do it, and I've been doing it, it's gonna be harder for me to abstain from that. Like, I don't know why women don't even understand that part. If a man is always told since he was a boy to have sex with different people, and he's had sex with different people, and then he decides to settle down, he's going to expect it more. Why? Because he's had experiences with different people, and probably a lot of different people. And so now you are the only person that he's supposed to have sex with for the rest of his life, and you decide that you want to abstain. Herein lies the issue, because that's when the cheating is involved, because he wants his needs to be met and you are not meeting those needs, because you think you putting him on punishment because he's not doing what you want him to do. But in reality, you sending him out into the wolves, in the world with the wolves, with women that's gonna easily give it up, easily do whatever, and because you're not fulfilling his needs at home. That's very problematic, and that is one of the reasons why men are cheating in marriages, because sex becomes a big issue. But also, men are not understanding that if she has peace, and I'm not going to say this is the case for every single woman, because there are some women that are really crazy, and I'm a woman. And I've seen some stuff. And I'm like, sis, you crazy. But for real, if a woman has peace at home, her needs are being met financially. Let's just say financially, the needs are met. She's not all stressed out. He helps around the house with certain tasks, helps with the kids, lightens her load. They equally share the load. A woman will be more free to give up that type of thing versus if everything is on her shoulders, because now she is stressed out trying to figure out how she's going to do all of these different things by herself. Meantime, in between time, as a man, you're just going to work, providing the money, coming home, you got a meal. The kids you don't have to deal with because she's already doing that. You're not doing homework with them. You can rest. You can kick your feet up, watch TV. You're rested. Now you're ready to go. Whereas she don't went to work. She got to deal with kids when she gets home. She has to clean and cook and do all of these things and manage things in her home. That puts more pressure on her back, plus come and perform too. That's a lot. So, sharing that load can be very beneficial to both. And that's what men really don't understand on that end. Sharing that load can actually help because it may make her want you more because you are doing the things that she needs. It may help her to know that you're being more attentive to her needs, which i.e. she will want to sleep with you more. Or having that rest, because if you're constantly going, and think about it as a man, if you're working and you working overtime and you are doing 100 million things, when you come home, you're not even going to want to do anything. You're going to hit the bed and it's over. So if you think about it in that regard, like she's doing a million things, when she come home, she ain't going to want to do all of that. Problem solved. Share the load. Understand the perspective of one another is really key so that you all can have a healthy dynamic when it comes to that. But I don't think that men and women actually have these conversations or even look at the dynamics and the differences that are there. But also understanding, I think that the conversation should be had as to what is involved once you get to that point. Especially the teenagers need this conversation because the information that they're getting is just all whack, like really is. And so when they're getting this information from their friends don't know what'll happen down the road 10 years from now. They don't know what's going to happen down the road a year from now. They're just knowing the here and now. And if they've experienced it, they're going based off of that one experience versus an experience that most adults have had, most parents have had, mentors, whoever, have had those experiences. So they're able to tell you what to do and what not to do, you know, how to move and how not to move, but nobody is really having that conversation. And it really needs to be had because girls need to understand that once you decide to do that, your life will change, especially if there's a child involved. And more likely than not, a girl will get pregnant. I'll find those data statistics about the likelihood of a girl to get pregnant by the time she's 21 from having sex. But that conversation, I find the statistics. Hello. But that conversation needs to be had because girls put themselves at risk when they decide to do that. Why are they putting themselves at risk? One, they're on the receiving end of everything. So their emotions are tied to it, like I said previously, but then the responsibility that can come from that. And then what if the guy does not want to be bothered with that? What if he's like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I ain't trying to be nobody daddy. Now she has to figure out, one, is she going to have an abortion? Is she going to give the child up? Or is she going to go through with being a mother? That's a lot to try to decide. So there's actually a lot riding on this information, because it can save someone's daughter from making that decision or having to make those decisions when she's not ready to make those decisions. Now, when you're in your 30s and you decide to do whatever, you grown. But I'm talking about, you know, teenagers that are still trying to figure out life while becoming adults. It's totally different. But arming them with that information is necessary, especially the girls, because they are the ones that are putting themselves at risk by doing this. It's like you're taking a risk and you free falling out there, you know. And if you free fall, it can go any way, like you rolling the dice. So arming them with this information is very necessary. And then when it comes to boys, telling boys, and nobody ever says this, that when you are having sex, be mindful of who you're sleeping with, because it can change your life dramatically. If you do decide to sleep with someone that is drama filled, and you know, because a lot of boys know when a girl is drama filled and they like it, but it's not cool after, you know, y'all done slept together and she acting crazy, you know, and doing all manner of stuff. It ain't cool when you done knock this same girl up. Now she your baby mama and she tearing up stuff because you don't want to be with her. It ain't cool when you have a kid on the way, but you don't want nothing to do with this woman, but now you got a kid that you're responsible for, who's depending on you to be there if she decides to go through with it. It ain't cool. So what you do with your male parts is very important, and where you plant your seed is really important, because I feel like a lot of men have made decisions, you know, based on getting that pleasure without thinking about the person that they're laying with. And then they find out that this person is, you know, crazy or whatever the case may be. Now you in this situation for life. And it could have been avoided had somebody actually had the conversation with you. Your sperm, your seed is important too. Where you decide to plant that is important too, because the ramifications that can happen behind that can be detrimental to your life. It can alter your life. A lot of people are dealing with that now as adults, where they're dealing with situations that they don't even want to be in, but they're in the situations because they decided to sleep with somebody based on whatever it was. And now here comes, you know, a kid, and now you looking like, what? We got to figure this out. And you might find a guy that's on board, because like I said, all guys are different. But for the most part, if y'all not already in a relationship or y'all not married, 9 out of 10, that man is not going. He's like, no, I ain't trying to do that. But this is a conversation that needs to be had. If I get pregnant, then what are we doing? If this happens, then, you know, having that conversation is very important. But parents having those conversations with their kids are important. I don't think I think that a lot of people got it wrong by telling boys that they need to go sow their wild oats, because then, to me, they become grown men who don't know how to control themselves. And that is some of the reasons why you have men out here exploring everything, because there is a lack of self-control because they didn't have to control themselves. And then there are cheating situations that come from that, like I said before, based on the fact that they're not conditioned to control. I would say it's a conditioning to control themselves. So these are the necessary conversations. So the conversation that parents really should have taught us, because I feel like it would have made so much more of a difference for them to share their own experiences. And I know that's not the norm, but for a parent to share their experience makes a difference in the mind of a child who does not want to make the same mistakes. You have children that don't care, but you have some children that, if given the information, they'll be like, you know what, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be a teen parent. I don't want to deal with this. I'm not ready for this, so I'm just going to wait. You have some kids that are like that. But not telling them, and then they go out there and they figure it out, and they got their friends in their ears, and all of this different stuff. Now they all confused, and then they go do it because they're being pressured to do it, not really because they want to do it. And it just creates so much more drama than what it's really worth. Hello. So this is a conversation that really needs to be had. It really needs to be a forum. I would like this to actually be a forum, because I would like women and men to actually discuss some of these differences, even in their thinking and thought processes when it comes to sex, because there are a lot of married people that have problems behind this, and they don't. And that's the funny thing. I've had conversations with married people that have said that prior to getting married, they didn't have any issues sexually, but then once the marriage happened, there were issues. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what happened from this time frame to this time frame. How do we get there? And to me, it boils down to the differences that we're taught. And women actually believe that by abstaining is like teaching him a lesson. Like, if he does something that you don't like, and you like, I'm not doing anything, not tonight, sir. And then they think that that's going to make him get it together. Too many of those, I'm going to abstain, I'm not going to do anything, until you figure out what you need to do. One too many of those is going to make him be like, you know what, I don't have to deal with this when I'm around Stacy, or I don't have to deal with this when I'm around Bianca. So I'm going to go talk to Stacy and Bianca. And next thing you know, the man is out there sleeping with Stacy and Bianca, because he don't have to deal with getting punished for whatever he did. I don't know why women think that's a punishment, because it's really not a punishment. You're actually causing more harm than good to your relationship by doing that. I actually would like to have a platform, a forum, where we had this conversation, men versus women. Somebody hook that up. Somebody, let's do that, because it's very necessary, because there are a lot of challenges that are happening within marriages and relationships surrounding sex. So, anybody have anything they wanted to add before I continue? No? Okay. So, I really believe that this conversation is really necessary, and even having this conversation before marriage happens is really necessary. I think that conversation should happen once you all have gotten to the I'm ready to get engaged phase, and you all know that marriage is in the cards, to sit down and have this conversation, because it can actually help. And I know that women sometimes feel intimidated by that, but to know is better than not to know, because now you have the information and you know how to navigate the situation, versus if he's not telling you different things, then you're not going to know how to navigate that. And then the views around sex. So everything has changed from how it used to be. We know that, things have changed from grandma, grandpa's, your auntie, uncles, marriages and relationships back in the day. So now you have social media, you got OnlyFans, you got all these different porn sites, you got all this different stuff. So now people have looked at all of these different things and have created what they want their experiences to be around the things that they have seen. And when you don't have this conversation about that experience or what your expectation is, that can be a relationship killer, because this man who has slept with all these different women is expecting you to be that one woman who does all of these things that all these women did. That's the other part. And man, you gotta stop doing that, because if y'all don't have that conversation, then it's not gonna happen that way. So that conversation needs to be had. And women gotta be honest about, I am not them 50 women that you slept with, in your lifetime. I am not those women. What I can do is this. What I can't do is that. And he gotta let you know whether or not that those things are a deal breaker. But that conversation should be had, because it can save a lot of things and a lot of issues from happening. A lot of times men make up in their mind all these different fantasies, all this different stuff. Now you have some women that are like that too. I have talked to a couple women that are like that, and I'm like, well, if that ain't what he want, then says you might have a problem on your hands, so you might want to say something before you go off and do something else. But having that conversation is very necessary, and you might find that some people might be open to whatever it is that you want to do, to certain things, not everything, but certain things that you want to do. So now it becomes a learning experience when you all get to that point. But it's necessary to talk about it, because there might be some things that she don't know, because she may not have had as many experiences as you. There might be some things that she might have thought of, okay, I want to do this, but she not going to tell you that because she don't want to seem like she, is out there or whatever. But the conversation still need to be had. And I don't know why it's so taboo, why we look at it like that, when there are people that have, other cultures do have they have these conversations. And I'm not saying that their marriages are just so peachy because they're having them, but I feel like it opens up the gateway for communication to minimize certain situations from happening, blink, blink, so that you all can have a healthier relationship. But when you're not having the conversation about sex in your relationship and what the expectations are, and you're silent, and neither partner or neither husband or wife are getting any type of enjoyment, fulfillment, they're not feeling it, and they all got chaos around them, it's not going to be a good experience. And that's how cheating gets involved. Somebody going to start talking to somebody, and somebody gonna do something, and next thing you know, they off experimenting with whoever else that meets those needs. So having these conversations are really important. From the teen years on up, this is a conversation that needs to be had, because even like I was saying earlier, when it comes to teens, they're having their own conversations, but they're distorted conversations because they're not armed with the information. And telling them how to have a relationship, which I talked about before, telling them how relationships should function outside of sex, how they should be able to have a relationship with somebody of the opposite sex is very key. It needs to be discussed, because we know this information. We as adults understand this information. A lot of us, some of us may not, but a lot of us do. So having that conversation is necessary. But then telling them, okay, when things get to a certain point where it's kind of serious, or this is happening, be careful of this, and start talking to them about, okay, when you are touched like this might feel like this, or, don't think, and this is a conversation I think mothers should have. Even fathers that have little girls, I think that they have an advantage when they're a girl dad, because they can tell girls what boys are thinking. Because we know boys ain't thinking too much of nothing. Let's just put that out there. They're not thinking too much of nothing. They just thinking about, oh, I experienced this, almost like a drug, need to get another hit. Okay, let me get another hit. They don't care where the hit is coming from. They're getting a hit. Okay, so we know that boys are not thinking of much of anything, where girls got all 1,000,001 thoughts in their heads. So as a girl dad, you have to tell girls, like, what's really going on out here in these dating streets. Just because a guy tells you, the boy says that you're beautiful, doesn't mean that he really wants to be with you. It may mean that he just wants to see how far he can go, because he's trying to get his itch scratched, like, something like that. Or if, he's saying these things, it's possible that he can be telling Sarah and whoever else the same thing. So you got to keep your eyes open. If he's not respecting boundaries, if you tell him no, that this is not something that you want to do, and he's trying to coerce you, that's not the person for you. Have these conversations, because it will save a lot of girls from heartache. I don't know why people think because the conversation is not being had that these things are not going to happen, or issues are not going to arise, or whatever. It's not saving anybody. It's just doing the person a disservice not to have the conversation when you already know what's going on out here. So telling her, like, you look beautiful, affirming her in her beauty, in her mind, the girls actually need that from their fathers. And I talked about this before. Affirming her so that she doesn't fall for the first guy that tells her that is really important. A lot of girls have experience not being affirmed by their fathers. So when the first boy comes along and tells her that, she's like, oh my goodness, such and such is, they love me, or they said this. But if her father is doing that already, she gonna be like, okay, my daddy tell me that, now what's different? Okay, I'm good. No need. But like, if that dynamic is not happening, then even girls, mother and daughter dynamics, mothers telling their daughters, like, hey, even affirming her. If there's no father around, mothers then have to make sure that they're affirming her. It should be happening anyway, because you already know the struggle of being a girl. But having the affirmations and telling her how beautiful she is, intelligent she is every single day, and telling her, you know what, guys are gonna do this. The boys, this is how they operate. This is what they say. This is what they'll do. But at the first sight of him saying that does not mean that he wants to be with you. It doesn't mean, having that conversation. This is what it really could be. However you word it, but the conversation needs to be had, even with boys. Don't go out here and start sleeping with all of these different girls because you don't know, you don't know them. You don't know what they're capable of. If you start doing this, it can cause confusion. Now the girls going crazy. They doing all manner of stuff, and if you jump in from one bed to the next, you could be, if you're not using anything, you could be out here, spreading diseases. Who knows? Having the conversations is really necessary in all regards, from the teenagers to the adults. If you're dating, if you're married, having those conversations, because you need to understand where you all are, where you are as an adult, understanding where you are, where you want things to go. Having that conversation is really important, so you're not in the dark about anything. Did anybody have anything they want to add? Because I'm trying not to go over the hour mark. It's late. It's late. So I do want to have this conversation with an open forum where there are women that's actually having this conversation, and men that are having this conversation on the same platform. So I might just work on that for the new year, because this is actually our last conversation before the new year. So you will see me again after the new year. I'll probably do some lives, but it won't be these types of lives. But yes, with that, I'll probably do a part 2 after the new year. And in the part 2, I more than likely will make it a forum where women can discuss their actual, what they believe, what their challenges are. And so it will give men a better understanding of women, and women can get a better understanding of men. I think that those conversations are necessary because it will make a world of a difference within your relationships. And even if parents will even have these conversations with their kids, because I will tell you, kids are having sex so much more younger. And they don't know what they're doing. They're just doing something. And if parents are not telling them this, they'll be out here like jackrabbits, really, because they've experienced something and don't know what to do with that experience. So it's very necessary for us to get on the same page in that regard, and telling them how precious, doing that is, but also understanding what the outcomes can be, and that you don't have to, as a guy, you don't have to, it doesn't make you more of a man to be out here, sleeping with 20 different women at the same time. Like, it doesn't make you more valuable, nor does it make you more valuable as a woman to give it up, because it's not necessary, woman, girl, because it's not necessarily, where he is. It may be, he might just be saying something just for the sake of saying something, and I don't know why women at this point don't necessarily understand that. I find that a lot of women don't, but it doesn't make you less valuable not to do it, if that makes sense. So just understanding what your choices are, what your options are, and being okay with whatever the outcome is what's necessary. And it gives you peace of mind at the end of the day, because the decision that you are making is ultimately the decision that you have information on, and you are choosing to make all on your own without any outside forces or pressure. So we will continue this conversation. So with that, you all have a great night. Bye.